So we actually formed ORLI back when we were students. We were both in our thesis year, and as you can imagine, with Hurricane Sandy happening the same year as your thesis, put us in a bit of a loop. At the time, I was going to Old Westbury campus, so that's like a commuter school, so I was driving to school every day. And when Sandy happened, everything was cut off. There was no fuel, there was no power. I was actually living in Lindenhurst back with my parents. Our home was flooded. We actually chose not to evacuate, which looking back, maybe we would have chose to do or thought about that differently, looking back. But I actually like to start usually with this photo. First, because I think this photo captures a lot of what the rebuilding process looks like right now. This is actually taken in Lindenhurst, right on the Great South Bay of Long Island. It shows, a new framed single-family house going up, and all the other homes around it are, staying where they are. There's a lot of issues with funding from FEMA, the different programs that are, the government-funded programs that are happening, like New York Rising, Build It Back. So what we immediately saw was the problem of these communities, how the rebuilding process is moving forward, is not continuous. It's not going in line with the same community character that these communities had. They're all bungalow, small homes that are just slab on grade, pretty much no foundation. They pretty much got wiped away, and when you think about starting to elevate these, a lot of times it's really not feasible to elevate. You pretty much want to just demolish these and rebuild. So you have homes that are being elevated above the ground plane up to 10 feet, homes that are remaining on the ground because they don't have money or they're moving out, and there are homes that just are being rebuilt, and they're prototype homes, they're modular. So there's a very discontinuous community character that's arising that we're seeing. So we knew that this would be the problem. So right after, again, there's some photos of the damage. That's a photo from my front porch. I was in a good spot because our house is actually on a plinth a little bit, so we actually were spared a majority of the damage. This photo, this was at about 9 o'clock that night, so the water in the street was about 4 feet, right up to your waist. I had to go down to our basement and shut off the electric panel with hip waders on. It was pretty scary, because at that time the power didn't go out yet. We had to shut the power off before the water hit the electric panel in the basement. So it was very scary stuff. So what we did, this is actually a photo of our student team at the time. We got in touch with the local building departments in Long Beach specifically. We did a lot of research. We came up with informational pamphlets to show homeowners what the rebuilding process is going forward and how to break down all of the very confusing information that FEMA was putting out. A lot of it, they just were throwing pamphlets on your doorstep, making you responsible to understand it. We knew that this was a big problem, and this was the reason why a lot of people are doing different things to rebuild and to recover. So again, completely student-led and organized, going back to the grassroots. This is totally outside of our studios, totally outside of school life, and we had the passion, and us being in a very unique position, being architecture students, we knew that we were pretty much one of the only ones that could really break down the information and make a real impact. And one of our major goals was to bring new ideas to these local coastal communities. And so our major initiative was the 3C Comprehensive Coastal Communities Global Design Competition, where we, as architecture students at the time, we usually think about entering competitions to get our names out there, maybe win a small grant to help with tuition or books or whatever, studio supplies. But we wanted to do the opposite and organize and host a competition where we bring ideas from students and professionals alike. We didn't want to discriminate anyone from entering. So we actually got in the beginning we got about 300 interested teams from about 20 countries around the world. And that ended up in 32 finalists, which had really great ideas. We had a first, second, third place, and honorable mention winners. The first place winner is up here. Actually, bunch of students from Northeastern University right here in Boston. And what we wanted to do, going into the social media aspect and grassroots areas of it, we wanted to make an elimination tournament similar to Final Four March Madness basketball style. So we had these different brackets. We organized the ideas into Atlantic Bay, different types of typologies, and we broke it down. We had a public vote, and this is where we had a lot of interest from local homeowners that were logging on, looking at the designs, voting for what they thought was the best. We also had students promoting their own ideas, which is something different than a typical competition that you enter, because we didn't have a jury or anything. We just had a big public vote.
We had a jury.
Well, we had a jury just to finalize, I guess, the first, second, third place winner, but the majority of the finalists were really judged in this public vote campaign. So talking about the 3C process, we really thought about new roles for the architect. It becomes a way of sort of activist or activism in architecture, really being all gung-ho about your own ideas, how to promote it was a major part of this that we wanted the teams to be involved with. Obviously, look at the local vernacular and look at socially responsive designs that we really focused on. And we also wanted them to look at master plans for the towns, not just designing one house, but how do you look at an entire town with all these different approaches? How do you create a comprehensive community? And so ORLI right now is looking at 2 different tracks. We have team members in the Philippines right now. We have a global and national, which is sort of that area. We've been to London to present in the Philippines right now. Austin Reed, who is the other co-chair, is in the Philippines, going back and forth to Australia, working on different various resiliency-based projects over there. And then, of course, our local areas of work, partnering up with different nonprofits, which I lead a lot, and Alex helps lead a lot of those initiatives back home here. This is just some of the photos from the Philippines. So we're based out of Siargao on the Pacific Rim, one of the smaller islands, famous for a lot of surf culture over there. So what we're trying to do is just do a bunch of workshops, designing a bunch of workshops and charrettes. Not really changing the design, but looking at ways to improve their local vernacular, not coming in and giving them a whole new typology that they're not familiar with, but working with what they have and looking at different smaller details and things like hurricane strapping. How do we improve using their recycling materials and using different materials that are local to the area? And we actually have a workshop on Saturday which looks at not looking at design really, but looking at how you design a workshop. So it's a bit different than what you may have encountered in the past with workshops. And so this is what we're doing back home at NYT. We're still really involved with the Design 5 Community Design Studio. We helped with the studio site visit. We looked at becoming like almost a visiting critic. Me and Alex were back and forth looking at their designs, helping them out. And then just in conclusion about ORLI, just our next steps, you should definitely log on, email us if you want to help out. And our next steps are definitely continuing our work in the Philippines and looking more about how we look at their designs in the Philippines and improve their local detailing and vernacular using the resources they have. So with that, I'll turn it back to Alex.